Good morning, students. Today we are going to read class 7th SST History, chapter number 10, The New Political Formation, part 3. So, student, in the two previous video, I had explained about the later Mughals and their disintegration, as well as I also explained that the many of the power that came into that some of the territories or the some of the areas that they had declared themselves as an independent, and also I had explained that many of the areas which is rose after the disintegration of the Mughal Empire. So in that we had already read about the several state, that is the Sikh community or the Awadh, the Hyderabad, Bengal, Mysore, and several parts. Now the next topic that we have to discuss in this video is the Maratha. So the Maratha empire was came into more prominence and during more prominence during the during the medieval period in comparison to the other regional powers. So how the Maratha came into power, and who is the most famous, or we can say who started the Marathas community, or we can say the rule of Maratha. All those things we will learn in this topic. Now let us begin with the Maratha. So Maratha, uh, the name Maratha is sorry, the name Maratha is always started with the name Shivaji, the Chhatrapati Shivaji, and he is considered as the establisher of the Maratha Empire. He was born in 1627, and he was the son of an official. His name was Sahaji Bhosle, and he worked as a officer in the uh, Bijapur kingdom. So his father was a official, but he rose. After death of his father, he was under the guardianship of Dadaji Kondev. He was a guardian. He served as a guardian, or he served as a teacher of the Shivaji, and Shivaji learned various things from from Dadaji Kondev. He learned from him art of administration as well as the guerrilla warfare. First of all, art of administration. That means that he learned that how a ruler should have to be, also how the ruler should have to behave, and also he learned from him archery, the short, the fighting with the sword, and riding on the horse, and various things included guerrilla warfare. What is guerrilla warfare? It is a kind of technique in which they fight. They hide in the dark areas. They hide behind the trees. They hide behind under the soil, or various things they adopted. And while hiding, when the enemy's army, when the enemies are coming to go towards them, so on the spot, or all of a sudden they came out from the trees, they came out from the dark or the jungle areas, they attack on them. And this technique, this guerrilla technique, gives him the chance to conquer many of the areas, and later on he became the ruler of the Maratha Empire. So this is the technique in which he get the expertise. This is the technique, the guerrilla warfare technique. He get the expertise in that, and he also, along with his supporters, he established the whole Maratha Empire or the Maratha kingdom. At the very young age, at the age of 16, he sees the fort of Toran near the Pune, and it is under the Pune district right now. So he conquered. He seized the fort Toran, and he removed uh, the ruler, or we can say those who are the part of the Toran fort. He removed them from there and captured the Toran fort of Toran. Then he also captured the Kondin fort and Raigarh fort. So both are in the Maharashtra or the Maratha regions. These all areas came under the Shivaji Empire. Later on, he also conquered the Javli kingdom, and made his region, the basically the Malwa region, that was in that came under the that came under the Shivaji. And also he wanted to conquer the Konkan region, the downside of the Maratha Empire. He wanted to conquer those regions also. With this tragedy, with this thought, he and he fought against the many of them, like he fought against the uh, Mughal Empire basically, because during the time of Shivaji, when he got the seat, when he became the ruler, so during that time Mughal emperors are living in that time. So probably it was the time period of Jahangir and Aurangzeb. So this was the time. So or you have already read that Aurangzeb covered almost the Indian subcontinent. So this was the time period when Mughals also trying to harass, and the Aurangzeb's religious policies that you have already read. So all these makes the Shivaji to angered against the Mughal Empire, and he dealt with the Mughal emperors. He also attacked many forts and many forts of Mughal Empire, and also he attacked on the Mughal cities as well as supply lines. Supply lines means from where the Mughals artillery, Mughals weapons are reaching towards the Mughal army. So all these were came under the Shivaji, and these all have uh, captured. These all are captured by the Shivaji, and this makes him the prosperous during that time, during his reign. So uh, became when he became appropriate enough, so he established his kingdom, that it is known as Maratha Empire. And he took the title of Chhatrapati, or the sovereign king, which means that the everybody is equal in front of him, and his power is equally distributed, and we can say he's equally distributed his power among his all ministers as well, that you will read in the previous topic now, after this. And uh, in the time of 1674, and his ceremony was held in Raigad, that is his one of the capital during that time. After the death of Shivaji, none of the capable ruler, because like the other Mughal rulers you have already read, and the other regional powers that you have read, the successor of the prominent king or the effective king are very weak. You have already read from the previous topic. Here also the successor of Shivaji's are very weak. The like Shivaji's son was Sambhaji, and he was also he was the ruler, but he was not that much capable that was Shivaji was. So Shivaji was very weak in the sense he was not capable to hold the empire what the Shivaji acquired. So he was defeated and killed by the Mughals. After the death of Shambhaji, his son Sahuji has sat on the throne, and he was also a weak ruler. And during the rule of Shahuji, the power came into the hand of the Peshwa. So this is the long period. This is the long period when whole power of Maratha Empire is in the hand of the Peshwas. That was the time period of 1713 to 1818, almost a century, almost 100 years. The power was with the hand in the Peshwa, till the Britishers' interference is not there. So till the time the after the death of Shivaji and their successors, so whole power is in the hand of the Peshwas. Now, so the Peshwa is become most important person during the uh, during the 18th century, and the whole power is rested with the Peshwa. Now, when when they saw that the ruler of the Maratha, or we can say the Chhatrapati of Maharaj of the Maratha Empire are very weak, so they took all the power in their hand, and they became this became the hereditary. Earlier, this was not hereditary, but after the Shivajis, that the Peshwa is become hereditary. There are three main Peshwas that was named, that was came after the Shahuji. Was that first one was the Balaji Bishwanath and his son Bajirao one, and his son Balaji Bajirao. These three are the famous Peshwa. uh, Peshwas were there earlier. Peshwas were there in the time of Shivajis also, but after, when the Shahuji became very weak, that time the Peshwas came into power. So the most powerful Peshwa during that time was the Balaji Biswanath during the time period of 1713. He was the first Peshwa, and he was export administrator, and also he had the expansionist policy. Expansionist policy means what the Shivaji have. He also expand his empire, not only in Maratha area. He also expand his empire towards the Hyderabad, Mysore, and Deccan area, basically Deccan and South areas, and towards the northern India as well. But after they're trying to conquer all these areas. But after the Balaji Biswanath, his son Bajirao I, when Bajirao I came into power, so had he had the ambitious expansionist policy. Ambitious expansionist policy means he wanted to conquer the almost area of the Indian subcontinent, and he tried and he achieved it also. Means that during the reign, because why I'm saying reign word, because Peshwas were become more powerful during that time. So during the reign of the Bajirao one, the most of the power is came under the Peshwas. So Peshwas have the most power, and he conquered Gujarat, Malwa, Bundelkhand, Hyderabad, Basin, and Saliset. Basin and Saliset is a part of Mumbai. It is near the Mumbai, and it was under the Portuguese. It was under the control of Portuguese, and he also conquered those areas. So you can see he reaches to the Gujarat, Malwa, Bundelkhand, and the Hyderabad. So he conquered most of the area which was under the many rulers. So his expansion policy was very strong, and he was a brave fighter. He was a very much okay. This on the base of on the story of Bajirao one. There is a movie has came or the release, that is the Bajirao Mastani. He was the story is relatable to that. So he was a brave fighter. He conquered a lot of area during his reign. After Bajirao won, the next Peshwa came was Balaji Bajirao. His son was there. He was also expansionist, or we can say he was also a brave fighter, because as I told you that three Peshwa were very powerful. After the first one is Balaji Biswanath, then Bajirao one, and the Balaji Bajirao. So these are some of the famous Peshwas during of the Maratha Empire. Balaji Bajirao also conquered the Delhi as well as the Punjab. So now you can see the Maratha Empire reaches towards the, after they cross the Gujarat, they reaches towards the Delhi and the Punjab area. So these areas were captured at the time of 1753 and 1757. Now there you can relate 1758 is there at the Battle of Plassey 1757. You have read that the Nawab of Awadh and Bengal, as well as the Mughal ruler, they fought the Battle of Plassey. They lost that area. So this is the time period when there is a big loss of the Mughal Empire, and this gives the opportunity to the Balaji Bajirao to expand his territory. So they reached towards the Delhi and Punjab area. This period was saw a powerful Maratha families. So there are many Maratha families came into power uh, to as a helping hand of the Balaji Bajirao and the Bajirao one. So these are Bhosle, Gaikwad, Sindhia, Holkar. So these are the strongest family. Why the strongest family is there, because they are they are considered as a nobles, or we can say they are considered, they get the some of the post from the Peshwas, and also they become very much powerful because they were brave also, and they were become powerful during the Peshwas reign. And they also helped these Peshwa to fight against the nearby or the peripheral territories, like whether the Hyderabad, Bundelkhand, Malwa, and other part. The Marathas, the Mughal entered into treaty with Marathas. So now, when they saw that the Marathas' power is arising day by day, so they saw, the Mughals saw that the powers of Maratha is rising day by day. So they signed a treaty along with the Marathas. The treaty says that they they will give some of the part to collect the taxes of their area, and uh, in return they will protect they will protect the Mughal Empire from the Ahmad Shah Abdali, the another invader that who came after the Nadir Shah. So let me explain this line again. So when the power arises, the Marathas powers arises. So Mughal feared from that, and Mughal signed a treaty with the Maratha Empire, so that the treat on the basis of treaty, so the Maratha can take the taxes, collect the taxes of the various areas which they had given. They had given several state. The Mughal Empire had given several state. In return, they have to protect, the Maratha have to protect to the Mughal Empire from the foreign invader, that is the Ahmad Shah Abdali. So they gave them right to collect the taxes like Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. So you will read what is Chauth and what is Sardeshmukhi in the next slide. The growth of the Maratha empire induced a certain degree of anxiety among the Sikh Rajputs and the ruler of Hyderabad and Bengal. Now, as I told you that they covered a various area, such as the Malwa, Bundelkhand, and Hyderabad and other. So the ruler of those areas, like the Sikh community is also arising that time, the Rajputs are also there, the ruler of Hyderabad and Bengal, they all get feared from the Maratha, so that they can their territories can be also removed, or we can say the Maratha can also take their territories too. Therefore, when the Marathas chased Ahmad Shah Abdali in the third battle of Panipat in 1761, so none of these power extended the military aid to them, resulting in the beginning of decline of the Maratha Empire. Now, this is the time period when the Peshwa's power is getting down. How? Or the Marathas' power is getting down. What is the reason behind that? So the treaty what they had signed with the Mughal Empire, that during the invasion of Ahmad Shah Abdali, they will give the protection to the Mughal Empire. So when Ahmad Shah Abdali attacked on the Mughal Empire, because why they attacked? Because Nadir Shah also attacked. So reason was that there was no efficient ruler, so that they can loot, or they can take away all the money from there to his own country. So Ahmad Shah Abdali came again. So there is a battle between Marathas and the Ahmad Shah Abdali. That was the third battle of Panipat. So you have all remember the first battle of Panipat was fought in 1526 between the Babur and Ibrahim Lodi. The second battle was fought between the Akbar and Himu, and the third battle is fought between the Marathas and the Ahmad Shah Abdali. It was in 1761. So these battles, so the third battle of Panipat was very famous. There the Marathas lost that battle. The reason was that Marathas thought that they are giving the protection to the Indian territories. So the other Indian rulers like Sikh, like the Rajputs and the other rulers will help him to protect the Mughal Empire from the invasion of the Ahmad Shah Abdali. But all these rulers angered with the Marathas because they also know that sometimes their territories can be captured by the Marathas, so they did not help the Maratha, and in return, in resultant, the Maratha Empire, the Maratha lost the battle, and they lost the power as well. Means that the disintegration of Maratha Empire is also getting start. Now, let us see the Marathas administration. How the Marathas how the Maratha rule, how the Shivaji rule, and how he has divided the territories. So, as you have already read about the Delhi Sultans, the Mughal Empire, and the several rulers, how they manage, how they maintain their administration. Here, likewise, we have to also read about the Maratha administration as well. So, the Marathas developed a fairly efficient political and military and financial administrative system. So likewise, they also, like other rulers, they also developed a political, military and financial system very well. The whole state is divided into prant, that is the province, and that further divided into taraf. Taraf means the sub district, and taraf means the district, and manja. Manja is a sub district, that is the another part of the uh, territory of the Maratha administration. The whole kingdom was run by the ruler, or the Chhatrapati, or we can say the Maharaj or the ruler, but he was helped by the council of 8 ministers, that is known as Ashtpradhan. So these Ashtpradhan are there, like you have already read about the Chahalgani or Chalisa. The Chahalgani or Chalisa was meant for Delhi Sultans so that they can help to the rulers. Nowadays also the prime minister or the president need the council of minister. So here during the rule of Maratha Empire, Shivaji also created a group of 8 ministers. So these 8 ministers can help to rule the whole empire. Let us see who are they. The first one is Pant Pradhan or Peshwa, that is the prime minister, that is the second command minister, that his work is to take care of all the ministries. The second one is Pant Amatya, that is the Majumdar. He helping in the he was known as account ministry, or we can say he had the responsibility of accounts and the accounts of the Maratha Empire. The whole money in transaction is responsible for the Pant Amatya. The next one is Pant Sachiv, that is Surnish. He was known as chief secretary, and his responsibility is to keep the record of inward and outward communication, means the foreign affairs basically. The next one is Mantri or Vaknish. He was known as personal secretary or butler. His responsibility to keep the Maharaj's life simpler, as well as his managing the food, time, keeping diary, personal safety, as well as the family matters too. So his responsibility is to look after these matters. The next one is Senapati or the defense minister. He is in charge of the infantry and mounted the infantries, means basically he's a head of the army. The next one is Pant Suman or Dabir. His responsibility is to look after the external affairs. That is the responsibility to taking the foreign policy or the communication, or also managing spy and covered the opposites. Okay, basically his responsibility is to manage the spies. So these spies help to give the correct information of the administration toward the ruler. The next one is Nyayadhish, that is the Kaji ul Uzut. His responsibility as a chief judge. He is, like you have already read in the sultans and the Mughal empires, that is the Kaji was there, chief Kaji was there. So here is also Nyayadhish. Pandit Rao Danadhyaksh, his response Saha Sadr Muhatsiv, his response, he is a commissioner in charge of matter related to the religion. So religions is responsible, the responsibility of religion is with the Pandit Rao Danadhyaksh. These are the post and their responsibility. So his responsibility is to take care of the charities, honoring pandits or Brahmins, and anything that is relatable to the religion. So all these responsibility is under the 8 ministers of the Ashtpradhan during the Shivaji rule and the other further rulers. The Marathas army included the infantry, cavalry, artillery and navy. So these all are there, those who fight with the so these are very strong army. These are very strong army, and they help the Marathas emperor or Marathas ruler to fight against to fight against their the enemy states, basically to fight against the enemy state, and they won with the help of these army. Fort plays an important role in the Maratha warfare. So they always focused on the fort, because when they captured the fort, so the whole kingdom can be in the hand of the Shivaji. Shivaji repaired many of the old forts and built new ones. So Shivaji is known for repairing the old one and built the new one. He also maintained a strict discipline in his army and paid his soldiers well. So he believes that army should be very strict. Army should be disciplined and strict, and he paid his soldiers well, because he know that if the soldiers is not paid well, so they cannot devote themselves against the country. So that is why he paid them well. And the army of Shivaji almost adopt the guerrilla mode of warfare. And this warfare, the guerrilla warfare, is always been successful to the Maratha Empire. Now uh, moving towards the land revenue. Okay, first you have to know that after the death of Shivaji, when the Shivaji get died, so the Peshwas, which were appointed on the basis of the he had the certain criteria. Shivaji has made certain criteria. So if a person is follow those criteria, so he can be appointed as a Peshwa or the other minister what he assigned, or he can also be the army of his empire. But after the death of Shivaji, all the Peshwas became the power of Peshwa, or we can say the post of Peshwa, become the hereditary. Hereditary in the sense, the father will be Peshwa, the son is Peshwa, and the grandson will be also Peshwa. So this become hereditary after the death of the Shivaji. Okay, so no, you know very well, the all state can be run by the money, and money will come from the revenue. So extraction of revenue or the land revenue is the main source of the every empire as well as Maratha empire. The assessment of land is done regularly, and on that basis the revenue is fixed. So all you have read that on the basis of fertility the land taxes are imposed. The land was divided into two categories. The land is divided into two categories. First one is Swaraj and the another one is Mughlai. Swaraj is the land which is under the Maratha control, direct under control of the Maratha, and they extract 20% of the produce, means the 2/5 of the produce, means what they produce they have to give 20% of their produce to the tax as the Shivaji empire. The another was the Mughlai. Mughlai is the land which is not directly control the Maratha, but it is under the control of Maratha, but they had given as a gift. As I told you, as I explained, that when they had signed with the treaty with the Mughal empire, so they could get the opportunity to take the taxes from the areas which they had given. So those areas is known as Mughlai area. So Mughlai have to pay two kind of taxes. First one is Chauth, that is the 1/4 of their produce, and Sardesh Mukhi, that is the 1/10 of their produce. Means this is the two taxes that they are giving to the Maratha empire. So these are the areas which is under the Maratha empire, but they were the part of the Mughal empire. They can be paid their taxes as a cash or kind, means if they produce something, so they can also give, and after selling that produce, the same amount of value that they can give to the Maratha empire. During the famine and the bad harvest, so grains and monies were advanced to the farmers. So during the the natural casualty, the empire also gave them money to buy the new seeds and also food grains to eat. After some time, the farmers can return that money in the easy installment. Easily they can repay their loan. Agriculture was actively encouraged also along with trade. So you know very well, the trade is very important for any territory, the agriculture is very important for the any territory. So these things are getting encouraged during that time. Existing trade routes were protected and new trade routes were encourages. So the old trade routes which on which they traded, as well as the new trades were created and old one is protected. So with the help of that, they also get taxes from there. Extensive fortification of territories were undertaken by the Marathas and was carried out by the Sindhyas of Gwalior, the Holkars of Indore, and Bhosle of Nagpur, as well as Gaikwad of Baroda. So these are the four powerful family that I had explained, that the Sindhyas of Sindhyas of Gwalior, Holkar of Indore, Bhosles of Nagpur, and Gaikwad of Baroda. These are the famous families. Those helped Maratha rulers to fought against their enemies. So they also became very powerful during that time, and they also started making the forts for their living purpose, or they also started the fortification. So during the rule of Maratha Empire, the fortification or the several forts were made to show as a power of their empire, to show as a power of their empire. So these were also made during that time. Therefore, the decline of Mughal Empire and conflict among the regional kingdom created an atmosphere of strife and tension throughout the subcontinent. So, when the disintegration of Mughal Empire is also there, the decline of Mughal Empire, as well as regional kingdoms, they fighting with each other, they are trying to capture their whole territories. This gives the advantage to the East India Company to capture the whole Indian sub territories. So, there you will read in the class 8 how the British East India Company exploit such situation and make their foothold into the Indian subcontinent. These topic you will read briefly in the class 8. The next last topic is there of your book is during the reign of the later Mughals, the governor consolidated their control over the provinces. The periodic remission of revenue to the center decline. So during the time when the Mughal empire get disintegrated, so the governors of the state, the governors of the provinces, they decline to submit the tax. So taxes will not be there, the revenues will not be there, so they cannot maintain the army. So this is the reasons that you have already read, that they extracting the taxes, they extracting the revenues from the peasants, but those taxes were not given to the emperors. Those governors increased the taxes on peasants and jamidars that started rebelling against the Mughals. Okay, jamidars are also there. Jamidars are getting the responsibility to extracting the money from there. They also made that who will be the highest bidder, means bidder in the sense boli lagana. So who will be the highest bidder, that they can give the taxes to the peasants. But if there is no production at all, if there is no production is at all, so what they will give, how they will give the money towards the jamidar, and when jamidar will not get the money, so how they will give to the nobles or the governor of the states. So this creates the instability during that time, and also the peasants and jamidar started rebelling against the Mughal empire as well as the governor of the states. The lack of centralized supervision meant to the greater burden on peasants and the local land elites. So those who are the small jamidars, or those who are the small farmers, they all become rebellion. And also the small farmers of the northern and western India, they also added with the peasants and the rebellions, jamidar rebellions, so that they can fight against the later Mughals, as well as the governor or the Nawab or the nobles, those who get the power to extract the tax from there. So they were forced to extract the tax, but the Mughal empire did not get the tax. The whole tax went to the nobles, those who get the power to extract them. As a result, the local political elite were able to seize the resources of their region and use them consolidate their own position. So this gives the opportunity to the local jamidars to conquer those areas as well, that the areas which they have to extract the taxes, so those areas will also went under these zamindar. So this makes the political stability again into the local areas. So this all created the peasant rebellions, or we can say the peasants are started rebelling against the nobles and the Mughal Empire. So all these topics you will read briefly in the class 8. So these are the topics that we have to discuss, and now this chapter is over, and you have to write about the Ashtpradhan of the Maratha Empire in your copy. Thank you, students.